Looking for something that'll really mess with your head in the best way? From survival horror to surreal sci-fi nightmares, these manga dive deep into the grotesque and bizarre. These aren't just random horror picks, they're some of my personal favorites. Whether it's mind-bending dread or full-on gory chaos, every title here left a mark on me. I've read a lot of manga, but these are the ones I kept thinking about long after I finished the last page.
Welcome to the family, son.
Alright, let's kick this off with one that wastes absolutely no time pulling you straight into its madness. Kichikujima, aka Freak Island. A group of students end up stranded on a remote island. From the very first chapter, the horror is full throttle. You're immediately thrown into a violent and unsettling situation that sets the tone for everything that follows. But that unease quickly spirals into total chaos. Freak Island throws logic out the window and dives headfirst into pure nightmare fuel. It's grotesque, unpredictable, and sometimes so absurd that you're not sure whether to be horrified or just confused. The island is ruled by a violent, fanatical family, shaped by years of isolation and obsessive worship of a dark deity called Santa Maria. Among them is Mari, eerily calm and never quite what she seems. With her disfigured face and blade-like fingers, she quietly becomes one of the most disturbing figures in the story. Her quiet menace stands out in a manga full of grotesque characters, and her design stuck with me so much I got a tattoo of her. Kaoru, Yoshikazu's son, is another terrifying part of the family. Deformed, brutal, and fully devoted to the cult, he becomes a chainsaw-wielding zealot who sees outsiders as sacrifices and believes he's fulfilling a divine role. Kaoru is a portrait of religious mania and lost humanity, and his presence, like Mari's, anchors the madness of Freak Island. Freak Island never settles into one genre. It lurches between survival horror, religious satire, splatterpunk, dark comedy, and even bizarre supernatural warfare. You'll witness cult rituals, characters trapped underground and forced into cannibalism, and later, literal battles involving the Catholic Church and resurrected corpses. There are moments so bizarre and over the top that it feels like the manga is constantly daring you to keep reading. Just when you think it can't get any weirder, it does. And somehow, it works. The horror hits hard. It's grotesque, offensive, absurd, and unforgettable. Every chapter piles on new madness, and somehow, you just keep turning the pages, trying to keep up. It's unpredictable, messy, and oddly campy at times, like a horror B-movie turned manga.
BDA.
Teacher!
Yes.
Corona's got a hard on.
Coming up next is a manga that turns sci-fi into something savage, stylish, and just a little bit existential. Gantz starts with two students dying in a train accident, only to wake up in a mysterious room with a black orb. From there it becomes a twisted game, fight or die. Each mission pits them against bizarre, often grotesque alien life forms. And the rules? There are none. You're handed a high-tech suit and a weapon and thrown into a battlefield. If you die again, that's it. The missions are brutal. Some of the aliens look ridiculous, until they start tearing people apart. There's a weird beauty in the chaos. Explosions, gore, betrayal. Gantz blends them all with sleek, almost clinical sci-fi style. The action is raw and intense, but it's not mindless. There's structure, law, and consequences. The orb itself, Gantz, remains a mystery, but its cold efficiency looms over everything. Kei Kurono, the main character, begins as a self-centered teenager. He's frustrated with life and doesn't really care about anyone. But the missions grind him down, forcing him to choose whether to protect others or keep running. His transformation isn't quick or easy, but that's what makes it feel earned. Other characters, like Kato and Kishimoto, shape his arc, each adding emotional weight to the mayhem. What hits hardest is the way Gantz tackles death. It's not just physical, it's existential. There's no justice, no grand narrative, just survival, trauma, and trying to find meaning in chaos. The further you get, the more it becomes about identity, purpose, and whether redemption is even possible. It's brutal, chaotic, and weirdly thought-provoking. Definitely not for the faint of heart, but if you want something that balances action with nihilism, it's a must-read. I am a hero is what happens when a zombie apocalypse hits someone totally unequipped to handle it. Hideo Suzuki is a struggling manga assistant, socially awkward, riddled with anxiety, and prone to hallucinations. He's stuck in a life going nowhere fast, and then everything collapses. The virus spreads quietly. Before anyone knows what's happening, Tokyo is overrun. The infected aren't your typical zombies. They move erratically, speak fragments of old memories, and are genuinely unsettling to look at. They're not just monsters, they're distorted remnants of people. Hideo doesn't suddenly become a hero. He hesitates, he panics, he overthinks. But somehow, with an old shotgun in hand, he manages to survive. And as the world unravels, he slowly changes. The manga takes its time with that evolution. You feel every step, the fear, the confusion, the reluctant bravery. It's grounded in realism and full of character-driven tension. What makes it even more unsettling is how often you're left questioning whether what you're seeing is really happening, or if it's just part of Hideo's deteriorating mental state. Hanazawa's artwork brings Tokyo's downfall to life in stunning detail. From chaotic crowds to quiet, decaying streets. It's a psychological, ground-level apocalypse. That's what made it so good. It's about fear, but also about what comes after fear. Blood on the Tracks is a masterclass in psychological horror. It follows Seiichi, a quiet middle schooler with an overbearing mother, Seiko. On the surface, she's loving and attentive, maybe even too much. But underneath that doting exterior is something much darker. Seiko's love is suffocating. She controls every aspect of Seiichi's life with smiles and soft words, slowly pulling him away from friends, freedom, and even himself. The horror here isn't loud. It's in the silences, the prolonged glances, the way Seiko never quite says what she means. It's in how her presence seems to dominate every space, even when she's not in the frame. The art plays a huge part in the unease. Shuzo Oshimi knows exactly when to hold a panel for a beat too long. It creates this suffocating atmosphere where every page feels like a held breath. As Seiichi begins to understand that his mother might not be the person he thought she was, the story shifts from coming of age to full psychological breakdown. He doesn't know who he is without her, and neither do we. That slow descent is horrifying because it feels so real. It's horror that stares back at you, unsettling because it's so intimate, so possible. This manga is hard to explain, harder to forget, and totally unlike anything else. If you're into stories that bend structure, mood, and meaning until they collapse in on themselves, Joshi Kouhei, also known as Assault Girls, is one you absolutely need to experience. Created by Jiro Matsumoto and serialized from 2011 to 2015, this manga starts as a dystopian sci-fi war story. Earth is locked in a long, grinding conflict with rebel forces from another dimension. To fight this war, the military uses assault girls, living weapons engineered to look like schoolgirls. They're not piloted in the traditional sense, they're bonded with human operators. And over time, that connection becomes something far more dangerous. The pilots begin to lose their own identities, consumed by the personalities of the assault girls themselves. At the center of this chaos is Lieutenant Takigawa, a commander in the Hyena platoon. a squad of unstable soldiers tasked with taking out rogue pilots who've gone too far. What begins as a combat story quickly turns abstract. Time fractures, reality slips, conversations loop, identity fades. You're not just watching Takegawa unravel, you're pulled into his descent. Every panel feels like it could twist into something else at any moment. The manga isn't interested in holding your hand. There are no clear explanations, no exposition dumps. It trusts the reader to piece things together, or to accept that some things aren't meant to be resolved. Matsumoto's art is raw and expressive, constantly shifting tone and texture. It reflects the instability of the characters, the war, and the world itself. Joshi Kouhei doesn't offer catharsis. It's not about resolution. It's about fragmentation, collapse, and what remains in the ruins. Themes of gender, war trauma, loss of identity, they're embedded in every interaction, every distorted face, every surreal set piece. This manga doesn't just explore the breakdown of self. It's haunting, boundary-pushing, and totally unforgettable. These 5 manga are anything but ordinary, whether it's grotesque cults, alien death matches, psychological spirals, or existential war zones, they stick with you. They're bold, raw, and unafraid to push the medium into dark, uncomfortable places.